Hello and welcome back to Lobotomy Corporation, and today, before we continue with the day 50, I just wanted to read some more lore about the abnormalities that we collected during our completion of Atziluth layer. So if you remember, the Atziluth layer consists of Hokma on the left, Bina on the right, and the architecture department, which is our office, I guess, in the middle, down there. So, which abnormalities did we pick up? So, this one, Happy Teddy Bear, we got in the architecture department. It's a very easy abnormality to manage. The only thing that it has is basically we need to alternate people who work with it, otherwise it will just kill them. An abnormality that resembles a large rugged teddy bear. It's missing some fur and only has one eye. The old ribbon around its neck hints that it may have received much affection from its previous owner. There is a name on the ribbon, but it's too tattered to be discernible. It seems that it knows it has been abandoned and looks dejected, except from the counseling lock. I was on the night patrol. I didn't feel the need to pay attention to Happy Teddy, since it was harmless for the most part. I just looked inside the containment to check on it. Teddy was hugging someone tightly. I thought it was someone I knew. The employee who was in charge of Teddy for a while, working late, but something was odd. I entered the unit and called that someone's name, but they didn't answer. I immediately pressed the emergency button to call in reinforcements. Turns out that someone had been in coma for 8 hours. They were in Teddy's arm the whole time. An old letter stamped with rejected. Remember what was written in the employee manual? Do not have personal feeling towards abnormalities. At first I didn't get what that was supposed to mean. Does it even make sense to develop any emotion towards those monsters in the first place? It's okay, they are monsters. Between the two of us, we can call them that. Happy Teddy Bear was the second abnormality you took charge of. I guess you must have thought that not all abnormalities are monstrous after seeing it. The figure of an old abandoned teddy bear may have brought up old memories of yours. Teddy seems to like your hugs. Yeah, it would actually produce more energy when you were around. And in no time they put you in charge of Teddy. You probably felt some kind of responsibility for it, right? I started getting worried as you visit Teddy's unit more and more often. It feels as if you were visiting an orphanage for volunteer work. It seems Teddy saw you as its new owner. Maybe you had been happy to hear that. But you see, Teddy never wanted to be separated from its owner ever again. You probably always promised that you would return, but it couldn't understand. I heard that you miraculously survived, and that they spent an hour trying to separate you from the Teddy's embrace. Though others may forget about you, I will always remember you. May there be a miracle. It is interesting, because as we know from the story so far, all these abnormalities are somehow human. Humans turned into the abnormalities. That's why most of these abnormalities behave like humans. Although it doesn't explain everything. The process is still kinda problematic in my eyes, because most of them seem like, well, we extracted these abnormalities from somewhere else. But yeah, somehow it doesn't really make sense sometimes. And with this thing, I could imagine it being a human that was overly attached to people, yet somehow I feel a little bit more satisfied when I imagine that no, it was extracted from somewhere else, not created by the company. So let's move on to the next one. Another abnormality that we got in the architecture department, the Snow White's apple. The one which is related to the fairy tale of about the Snow White and 12 gnomes? How many gnomes? 7 gnomes? When the priest kissed the princess, she caught up the bits of an apple stuck in her throat. The dwarves cried out in happiness. Snow White and the prince walked through the flower-covered path and headed to their kingdom. Everyone lived happily ever after. Then there was the apple created from the witch's wrath and curse. It was also a part of herself. The apple that dropped from Snow White's hand after a single bite could never be happy. The apple, full of loneliness and hatred toward the princess, waited for the day it would rot away and return to earth. Was it the enchantment, or was it the wrath, which was bending the laws of nature? Even after enough time had passed for it to rot and allow its seeds to bear fruit, the apple did not rot. In the meantime, one half of it was kicked and crushed by someone's foot. The other half was filled with holes, eaten away by the likes of birds and bugs. The carcasses of birds and bugs piled up near the apple. The apple pondered about its existence in the midst of the corpse rotting around it. One day, a branch grew from it. The leaves and the branches were already withered and dry, but it continued to grow. Finally, one afternoon, the apple gained the ability to move on its own. It thought of the princess and the prince who left happily. Snow White had also been sleeping for a long time, but the prince came and woke her up. The apple, now a princess in its own right, no longer needed a prince. She began to embark on a journey. Except from the hidden stories in the fairy tales no one knew. Author is unknown. And this abnormality actually makes sense that the person got turned into something like that. Because if you think about it, basically they read some kind of fairy tale, they really liked it, and when it was kind of mixed up with Cogito from Carmen, which I don't know how do they explain that, the transformation into the abnormalities exactly, but you can imagine that, well, the might be the last thought, or maybe the most powerful thought was about this kind of apple. Maybe they read the excerpt before turning into the abnormality. Yeah, very interesting stuff. So, let's move on to one of the more problematic abnormalities, which is a witch doctor or plague doctor. Where's the black fedora and big mask? By the way, you see I have a 4 observation level on it, because the abnormality escape information, as I read on the wiki, it has some kind of ridiculous cost to it, which is not obtainable at all, and it unlocks its escape information when it transforms. So, wears a black fedora and big mask, has a huge black wings instead of arms or legs, it is capable of human communication, though it prefers to talk little. It came to this facility by itself, claiming that the world has contracted a dreadful disease, only it is able to cure. We could not find anything about the disease it refers to. It seems to like treating employees when they are injured or sick. It shows satisfaction when helping others, and it seems quite sympathetic and benevolent. Even after a week of observation, we found no aggression, violence, or attempt to escape. Only contributions to the assumption that this abnormality is eminently gentle. 12 of our employees used this word to describe this creature, and good for us. Employee Alex, who had a serious scar on his forehead from subduing an abnormality, walked into Abnormality's chamber with a scar's recovery incomplete. The abnormality, which normally isn't loquacious, started talking as soon as it saw the employee's scar. Observation record number 1. The abnormality asked, "Why have you not treated this scar?" Alex replied, "I had no time, so I just gave it a little bit of first aid." Then the plague doctor answered, "I shall heal you, curing you of all disease and injury you may possess." Alex came out of the chamber with his scar completely healed. Other? I would call it more like a fear, to be honest. Knowing that what it turns into. Very interesting abnormality. I don't know. I don't find it to be gentle, but maybe or benevolent. Probably it's just, how to say, sly abnormality that pretends to be the savior, but in fact we know that he is not a savior. He is the devil himself, WhiteNight. It takes the form of a newborn fetus. Though the appearance is grossly grotesque, it's hard to even call it a fetus. While communication is possible, it doesn't occur in normal way. Every word he utters echoes throughout the entire containment. My disciples, whom I blessed, ye shall leave the way of evil that once ye following, and find me. When the time comes, I shall forgive your sins and descend to the earth ye are living on. The 12 employees who were blessed by him will transform and roam the facility to deliver redemption to every single employee. Wings will grow from their backs, and they will wear masks in the shape of beaks and bear crosses that forgive all sins. Follow my teachings as I told thee. Thou wilt abandon flesh and be born again. His disciples will be born again as ones who shall reach out to those far away from the light. Ones who shall embrace their neighbors, missionaries who shall spread the gospel to all their fellows. Their time has come, soon the bell shall ring, a new world will come. Rise, my servants, rise and serve me. I am death and life, darkness and light. You are WhiteNight. Yeah, you see, terror. I said it. That witch doctor he has O in his name, but the WhiteNight, which is basically a transformation of witch doctor, is T, which is terror. Well, if you saw what this abnormality does, you probably know that it's quite a pain to deal with, has ridiculous resistances, has a more ridiculous suit, which has, how to say, stats that are a little bit not true. This has a stats that this suit gives if you suppress this abnormality. Because whenever I first equipped this suit, I saw that the person got like 0.5, 0.6 or 0.5, somewhere like that on the suit, which is which is different from the stats that it shows. But I guess it only gives the stats only when you defeat it, and defeat it not by talking to the scene and 1,000 good deeds, but actually defeating it, containing it. It also has a different animation for it, and it also gives you some kind of weapon. I don't know. The fight with it, well, if I had a chance to actually fight it with preparation, basically if I had a chance to work with Witch Doctor, set up 12 employees that are very easy to fight, well, 12 employees that are located somewhere far away from his containment unit, and then initiate a fight, then it would be much easier, but I would need a big death stack that has 0 white damage, because you see, it has a huge white damage affinity. It heals from the white damage at twice the pace it receives the damage. So yeah, very interesting boss fight. Probably I will not do it, but as abnormality, yeah, it bears a heavy reference to the Antichrist, because all his disciples or apostles and he himself bears the mark 666, which is usually referred in Christianity to the mark of the devil. I'm not sure about other Abrahamic religions, I don't really remember. It's been a long time since I read anything about the history of religion. So yeah, very interesting. To be honest, one of my favorite abnormalities because how it looks. It's just the transformation itself, the art, the thing that it does, it's just amazing, to be honest. However, let's move to the next abnormality, which is a theft abnormality, Crumbling Armor, that we got in the Hawkmoss division. Very easy abnormality to manage. Basically, it has no associated gift, yet it does. But this gift is only given to those who does repression work on it. And that gift also has interesting limitations that it puts on a person. Basically, you cannot do attachment work, your health gets reduced, but your offensive stats increase. Also, it's a theft abnormality with a heavy weapon. So I guess if I got it earlier, it would have been cool. So let's read it. An armor that seems to have been used hundreds of years ago. An engraving on its bottom states, "Life is only granted to those who hold no fear of death." Obviously, putting this armor is forbidden by the company's regulations. Note: there have been rumors of employees pretending to put the armor for fun. Please look into this immediately. This armor was secured from a museum. You see? Again. Like Angela told us that all the abnormalities that will be created and the abnormalities that were created since the creation of the Lobotomy Corporation were created from karma. But here, this little thing, it kinda contradicts itself. Well, it might be that she is just talking bullshit and this actually abnormality that came from, well, natural causes. Basically, in this universe, they somehow can create abnormalities. However, then why is it in our possession? Our particular branch that actually creates abnormalities? Well, I don't know. Maybe there is some lies that lie in the talks of the people that we met. Maybe they don't really know what is happening. Maybe they know, but they don't tell us the whole truth. Like, because, for example, this one. Also, the description may be lying to us too. Who knows? But anyway, let's read it more. The information below is a fragment of its legend. The armor once belonged to the general whoever, who joined the war of whoever, during the year of whatever. It was a family heirloom, passed down through many generations. The general always wore this armor to keep himself protected. By a stroke of bad luck, however, an arrow flew into the gap in the armor, killing him instantly. Somehow the armor was undamaged. Well, I could imagine if it was a lethal wound, then it probably went into his eye, and that would explain why it was undamaged. Basically, it hit the back of his skull and didn't pierce anything here on the armor. After the death of the general, whoever, the armor was presented to the commander, whatever, of Battalion 00. The commander was always seen still clad each time he set onto the battlefield. During one of his battles, the commander fell from his horse while fleeing from the enemy and died due to a fatal injury upon his skull. Still, the armor once again remained undamaged. Yeah, because helmet is not secured on the armor. I think in medieval helmets, it depends on the medieval helmet, but there is tighter grip onto the helmet part, but in Japanese helmets I think there is almost no grip for the helmet, so it would explain why it was undamaged. There are many others though. There are many others throughout this armor history who have had their hands on it, and each and every one of them had died in battle. Meanwhile, the armor still kept its pristine condition. Over the years, the armor made its way to a warrior named Whatever. He was known for simply keeping the armor in storage, not wearing it for any single battle. Eventually, Whoever died of old age after participating in dozens of wars without sustaining a single injury. During his lifetime, the armor's right arm became damaged, but there was no sign of exterior impact. Whoever's family later donated the armor to a museum. After running a few tests on the armor, we have come to the following conclusions. If this armor is worn by a cowardly employee, their chances of fatal injury and death are drastically increased. Inversely, when an employee who holds no fear of death wears it, their chances of injury and death are exceedingly decreased. One of our personal managers suggested an entrance test where interviewers wear the armor and walk around in it for 10 minutes. This suggestion was immediately shot down. Hopefully not the manager. And interesting, one of our personal managers. Well, maybe it makes sense to have personal managers in other branches of the Lobotomy Corporation. But as we know here, these people, they're stuck in a perpetual cycle where they cannot really die. Even if they die, they get time anomalied back into existence. So yeah, very interesting armor. And it's interesting that they say that it drastically increases the odds of dying if you're cowardly, even though it decreases health for everyone. So, do they mean that everyone here in the company is cowardly? I don't know. But maybe they mean that if you hold no fear of death, that probably means that you have a large health pool. Very interesting. Well, the next one will be the bird, the Judgement Bird that we got in the architecture. It has a very interesting stat because it's a wall abnormality, yet it has large pale damage, and pale is quite a nuisance in mid-game. However, as a reward, it gives Aleph level equipment, and very good one, by the way. The sword, it hits multiple times, but well, it's nothing special to be honest. As I saw, to be honest, Mimicry, the sword from the Nothing There, does more damage than the sword, as I saw from my testings. Well, not really testing, but observations. But the suit, the best suit in the game, apart from the suit of WhiteNight. So let's see. A bird that used to judge the living in the dark forest, carrying around an unbalanced scale. The scale always tilts in the same direction, but it doesn't know this as its eyes are covered. Or perhaps it's turning a blind eye to this truth. In fact, the bird was once an even-handed justiciar. Its scale would never neglect the weight of even the smallest sin. The lone bird made a scale that was capable of weighting any sin to maintain the peace of the forest. At one point, the bird's eyes could see through anything. The eyes always shone brilliantly, burning like stars in the night sky. But it gave its eyes to the big bird. Big bird? I don't know that one. In order to protect the forest. Now only the void fills its eye sockets. The bandage is tattered, like it could tear off any minute. The bird's face was once covered in gleaming feathers, but they fell out as it spent too much time without sunlight. All that remains is the unjust scale. The Longbeard continues on, doing out just judgment. Yeah, interesting bird, and as I understand, it's a part of yet another boss fight. And here you see, it talks about some big bird. I guess this is the last piece of the boss fight. The fight of bosses. Anyway, very interesting bird, and again, yet another bird that was keeping justice in the forest. And if you look at the punishing bird, it also came from some kind of forest. Where? It must be punished. With this in mind, the little bird left the forest. It had been living in and never went back. Well, it doesn't really mention the specific forest. It just says the forest. And the only forest, to be honest, we saw was some kind of death forest. Well, I mean, in the story. But yeah, maybe they're from the same forest. That would explain why these birds are so strange. Well, anyway, let's move on to a more problematic abnormality that we received from Hokma, the Little Prince. And this abnormality has an interesting guideline. Basically, it says don't work too much with it, or you might get an infection, which is, I don't know what kind of infections they are talking about. Employees who worked with the Little Prince had a chance of being infected by its spores. Send them to work with other abnormalities regularly to contract the complete infection. What are they talking about? Who knows? But when the meltdown happens in its containment unit, you see, it has no maximum Cliffcove counter and it's a non-escaping entity, yet in the game, when you play with it, it has a Cliffcove counter of 2. And when it hits 0, it randomly picks 2 employees, or 2 or 3, and tries to suck them in and kinda, I don't know, kill them in the process. And I didn't know about it until someone commented about the Parasite Tree, which we'll read in a few moments. But you can snap them out of this little, I don't know, mind control thing by just clicking on them. You just click, and they snap out. So basically, this is not very dangerous abnormality, and this mandatory guideline is basically a lie. I had an employee who only worked with this abnormality for like non-stop, and he didn't get any infections, so I don't know. But maybe they mean that because you can get a bad result and the Cliffcove counter lowers, and if you do... Yeah, no. To be honest, I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe I was extremely lucky for like how many days in a row? But yeah, maybe I didn't really work with it too much because I didn't really need the weapon from it. I don't really like spears in this game, and the suit, well, it has a very big negative in the black, and there are a lot of abnormalities that needed black resistance actually, so maybe I didn't really focus on this abnormality too much. Well, let's read it. Among the employees, it was originally referred to as a giant mushroom chunk. It does appear to be a gigantic mushroom, and it bears some semblance to mold as well. Overall, its appearance closely resembles fungi. It continuously releases spores into the air, visible to the naked eye. A majority of our employees are not fond of this abnormality. Few are broad-minded enough to favor working with some giant mushroom that fills up a half containment unit, spewing out unknown gases. Spores. They have dozens of other things to worry about, including other abnormalities to work. As so, few of our employees willingly volunteered to work. We could only record the most bare bones information. Originally, we utilized a shift system to designate what abnormalities our staff were to work with. However, after the Magical Girl incident a few years ago, the Queen of Hatred, you mean? Or the Night of Despair? We began to give considerable consideration to the opinions of our employees when assigning work. The abnormality produced motile, microscopic airborne spores. They mostly proliferate by invading other organisms throughout their respiratory system. It is difficult to notice the initial symptoms from this invasion because the only sensation are a light dyspnea and dry sandy throat. That it is mandatory to wear a mask when working with this abnormality. When an employee inhales those enough spores, bizarre cysts will begin to grow on their body, and tissues will be eroded. Ultimately, they will become a dysmorphic creature whose original form is hardly noticeable. They will show hostility in the state, so they must be terminated on sight. And you see, even the description talks about the transformation, yet I never saw anyone transform into the mushroom. Yet, maybe I was just lucky. Maybe it has a percentage-based chance to transform an employee into the mushroom, not a more stochastic one. Wait, what? Yes, stochastic. Except from counseling clone employee John. There was this one guy who was awfully quiet. He was that guy who glanced sideways at us like some kind of fox, as if he was expecting us to talk to him. One peculiar thing about him was that he would volunteer to work on the mushroom chunk, an abnormality everyone loved to visit. It was also disturbing that he would spend an unusually long time in its containment unit. Who knows what kind of monstrosity might have grown on his body? When we decided to call the abnormality the giant mushroom chunk among ourselves, that guy spoke up for the first time, saying he is the one who's seen it the most. He talked a lot of nonsense like how it didn't deserve to be called the mushroom chunk. Everyone laughed at him. We decided he finally had gone bonkers when he started saying stuff about how he became friends with the damn thing. I mean, it's common enough thing around here, lots of stuff happens. One person going insane isn't a big deal. We tried to give him a couple of hints to take a psychiatric test, but he just gave us this condescending look like he knew something we didn't. A few days later, he kicked the bucket, as we all know. Did I mention that it was me who recognized him in that spore mold creature carcass? The birthmarks on his forehead. If we haven't found that birthmark on that lump of spores, we would never have ever guessed it was him. No one actually knew he had a birthmark except me, since, you know, no one in the department was friends with him. After becoming that monster, he just wandered around near the mushroom's containment unit. We tried to lure him somewhere less crowded, cause he attacked everything in sight, but he wouldn't move more than 10 meters away from the chunk until he died. This is why we decided to rename the abnormality. Complex reasons, like pity for the guy who became friends with a mushroom of all things, and the resemblance of his tragic death. To tell you the truth, he needed a friend. That's why he let himself get infected, going crazy in hallucinations, not knowing that he was turning into a monster. The mushroom, it tamed the poor bastard simply to reproduce. It got Alex, whose name wasn't known by anyone. Employee Alex notes. The human mind is too fragile to visualize something in the truest form. Did you know that mantis shrimp can see hundreds of colors that humans cannot? That simple fact is enough of an example to illustrate my point that it's detrimental to believe and judge everything by relying solely on what you see. I don't actually have many friends. Don't misunderstand me now. I don't want to make a friend. I choose not to make friends. It's not that I can't, it's because we don't understand each other. A person thinks of himself as a completely isolated entity, making it impossible to fully understand others. But ironically, an inherent instinct of a mob psychology has survived over the course of our evolution. We repeatedly play a game of risk, walking a tightrope, vainly trying to understand each other while staying out of our territories. In fact, I was long done with this pointless game. I volunteered to observe the giant mushroom for a similar cause. No one wanted to get close to the abnormality. It must be because of some petty reason such as how it looks disgusting to their eyes. The fact that its appearance was slightly alien wasn't going to stop me. In fact, I actually felt a bit superior when everyone seemed surprised when I said I would work with it. Omitted. The abnormality didn't show any notable activity. I recorded and absorbed the silence with patience. One day, after it spread powders of enchanting colors, I experienced a special change. I could perceive hyper-reality, a plane higher than reality. This was a hand he gave to me. I took it and was rewarded with invitation to such a special place. It was something only I could achieve. He talked to me telepathically. He welcomed me because I was the only one who could realize his essence. I had been imagining, yearning for the moment to converse through my mind, to be completely understood. The feeling of unification, it was so exhilarating, I could barely hide my joy. Omitted, basically a long description of the joy. I wanted to get closer to him. I wanted to be a part of him. I always thought of him. I wanted to belong to him. I understand his world. Like a flower bud about to bloom, my mind was pervaded. I was being tamed, little by little. Well, very interesting thing to say, because yeah, actually humans, they're not isolated. No, it's just every human thinks differently because of how our brain evolved to function actually. Even though we have similar brains, the way they learn and generate the thing that is us, the self, the thing that, well, perceive the world, that is you, basically, is kinda different. They are more unique than the composition of the brain or physical composition of the brain. That's why it is just fundamentally hard to understand other person, because basically you're thinking differently than him, you are learning differently than him, your electrical patterns that make you up basically as a person are different than him, and that's why it's hard. It's just hard. Yes, there is patterns. Basically, some areas of the brain are specifically made to maintain specific things, but the higher you go in the functions, like, I don't know, what a good example to give. Basically problem solving, for example, complex problem solving. Yeah, this one begins to spread out a little bit into different branches, and different people do it a little bit differently. Not much. There are still similarities, and that's why we can use machine learning to do some learning on these patterns to apply it generally. However, that is why they don't really work that well, and it is preferable to train a specific machine learning model on a specific person's patterns, because yeah, they might be wildly different. Well, not only from the age, by the way, except from an audio record. This is a part of the footage caught by a surveillance camera in the containment unit. As the abnormality spores completely obscured the visual feed, only the audio could be extracted. Judging from the content of the recorded conversation, we deemed it safe to assume that the abnormality spore contained hallucinatory agents, because even after a thorough analysis of the audio record, no voice other than the employees could be detected. The employee infected by the spores suffered a severe state of frenzy before being shot down by another employee on the spot. And interestingly enough, Usually, when some writers include sentient or sapient mushrooms into their work of fiction, usually these mushrooms somehow talk telepathically. It makes sense for mushrooms that are created from the same how to call it, mycelium, to maybe talk to each other, but in the real life they don't really talk telepathically, they just interconnected physically. But usually in the world of fiction, mushrooms somehow magically talk to each other. For example, in Baldur's Gate 2, I think they use spores to communicate with each other, which is also quite interesting, but that game has magic at least. No, I don't have any friends. Like I said before, I'm not fond of such contradictory relationships. At the very least, I think you could be my friend. The human language is too simple to illustrate this relationship, but I think we could settle on friends. Yes, I'm your one and only friend. I shall accept you. My life has been changed ever since I met you. I had been living my whole life feeling depressed, without a sense of purpose, without talking to anyone, just working all day. But you redeemed me, the person who abandoned oneself. Just like how I could perceive your true essence. You saw through me. It is truly a rapturous experience. I would like to understand you. I would like to become a being like you and love you. I was born human, lived a tedious life and might have kept doing so hard. It's not been for you. I was so happy that I met you. Please remember me. Please remember the nameless flower that blossomed just for you. Even if this turns to be a curse, I will love this curse like a blessing. I will think about you to the day my mind collapses and crumbles. I will close my eyes, thinking only my soul friend who came from the faraway universe. Afterward, a faint sound of air leaking from the abnormalities could be heard before all fell silent. Yeah, and basically this describes why he became one of these things. He said it, he was depressed, he was alone, and if you are depressed in real life, you should try to be surrounded by people you care about. You call friends, you call relatives, or whatever you call them, but the people that you care about. Because it's not about that they can help you in any way. Sometimes depressions cannot be cured simply by someone's help, but at least they can make it easier for you. So yeah, and that's why this mushroom was so, I guess, interested in this person, because he could exploit that person's feelings and could manipulate him, giving him what he wanted, basically. But to be honest, from what I saw, he just eats them. Mushrooms are foragers, not foragers, scavengers, vultures of the... They're not plants, of the natural world. Basically, they decompose everything. If something is rotting, or something is basically destroying the all other biological life, there will be mushrooms that will take care of it. They will decompose it, they will eat it, and they will clean everything up. There's also, I think, a theory that the first ever complex life that set foot on dry soil was actually mushrooms, because they converted the rocky terrain that was in the primordial earth to a more suitable one for first plants to actually move onto the earth. So yeah, this is kinda natural for them to eat things up, so to say. But who knows? Who knows what this mushroom is thinking about? Maybe there are more than one mushroom now. Maybe there are some kind of hive mind creature that just collects people. We never know. Now, and another one, abnormality, Laetitia. I think, let me check. Yep, she was from Hawkmas department. And let's see, this abnormality is very easy. Basically, if you score a normal on it, you will have to stick to this abnormality. You have to work with this abnormality. Otherwise, it will kill you. And spawn an entity that deals, I think, red damage? Similar to a child in size and always maintaining a bright smile. A very, very adorable little kid. They call me an adorable little kid because I'm a small and lovely child. The kid comes from a place far, far away. And when the kid meets someone she likes, she will give them a gift, made all by herself. The gift's content is a secret though. This is another really, really important secret. But the kid has lots of talents. This girl has many friends, but they said she can't bring them here. She was so sad that she had to leave her dear friends behind, so she came up with a brilliant idea. If I cover up my friends nicely and make it look like a gift, everyone will be surprised. And they will laugh together over my prank. Oops, there goes the secrets of the kid. I hope to find lots of friends here too. The kid is shy, so the gift will be given in secret. Farewells are sad. I hope we can play more. And people here don't smile. That looks so gloomy. So this little lady has made a decision to stay here and never leave until laughter is restored to this place. I will be happy if everyone is pleased with my pranks. Yeah, that's why I don't like pranks in real life. They're just one step away from being not a prank but a criminal act. And yeah, basically that gift she is talking about, if this is excerpt from her mind, yeah, she thinks like a child. And children don't really sometimes understand some things like life and death. And clearly, she doesn't understand that sometimes it's okay when people part ways in life. Yet instead, she decided that it's fine to kill them and turn them into a horrible thing. Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next abnormality, which is here. The one which is not in the current facility, because I had to reload from the memory imprint and this abnormality disappeared from it. So, this abnormality is the dreaming current. I think it looked like a shark thing, and basically when it escapes, it rapidly travels along the corridors and leaves some kind of thing, rainbow coating along the walls. Yes, liquid secretions that deal red damage over time. However, they heal sanity. Just keep showing him the book. Oh, and it has to be a page with pictures, since he probably can't read. When the experiment seems to drag on, try to draw his attention, like mimicking sounds. I don't need to explain every detail, right? Yes, I know it's unfortunate. Beautiful and sad. I do feel human emotions. Thank you very much. However, he ultimately survived thanks to this place. I hope he continues to live, in any shape or form. If you are thinking the same thing, it would be better off if you drop that guilt right now. Tell the kids today's treat is going to be grape flavored candy. It's his favorite. Except from encyclopedia. Contrary to popular belief, most sharks are small in size. There are only a handful of species that cause harm to humans. Yeah, they only cause harm to humans when they identify them as a weak prey, basically. Because, you know, in the natural world, if your prey can put up a fight that leaves you with wounds, that might lead you to just become weaker over time. because it's not very easy to heal those wounds in nature. They don't have hospitals, they don't have, well, especially sharks don't have really doctors, you see, in the natural world, and that's why they tend, most predators, not just sharks, tend to avoid confrontations where they're surely going to suffer a lot. For example, lions are like that. If they see that something is too dangerous, they won't try to fight with it. That's why hyenas can steal meat from the lions that are alone or weak. And lions will not do anything to them because, well, they know that if they get into the fight with them, they might just die in the long run. After all is said and done, the biggest appeal of shark is their strong jaws and teeth. A shark's jaw can apply an intense amount of force, around 20 times that of an adult human. Besides, their vision and olfactory sense are extremely well developed, allowing them to locate their targets easily. This is why sharks reign in the ocean's greatest predator until today. And they also have a very cool regeneration ability. Basically, they change their teeth so frequently that they don't even need to worry about them. The parents had long deserted the child. They said the old infection would kill the child before 2 years passed. The researchers were the child's new parents. He learned to coo and walk. Although unable to talk properly, the child liked the ocean. Instead of visiting the ocean, the child was given candy, which let him see the ocean. Many colorful nights and days passed. The child, who was thought to die within 2 years, managed to live for a long time. As always, he liked sweet candy, followed them, and loved the place at his new home. Though the only thing the child could do was run around inside a cramped lab instead of a grass field under the sun. His steps were shaky but filled with enthusiasm, excited about what kind of candy he would eat tomorrow. Well, maybe this is one of the abnormalities that were created in the Lobotomy Corporation after all. Yeah, you see, was abandoned by the parents, picked up by the researchers, and were given a cogito and turned into the abnormality with a child's mind, but a shark's body somehow. Gave him candy which let him see the ocean. Maybe that's what they mean by that line. Well, let's move on. Nothing really to say about this abnormality's special gift, because I don't really like his weapon. And his armor is actually quite good. I like this armor. When I need a war level armor, that is. Okay, the next abnormality on our list is not the Boring Haven, not the Night of Despair, but the first abnormality that actually, well, not the first abnormality, but the first other abnormality that forced me to actually manage it. Well, the first abnormality that I had to manage was the Queen of Hatred, because I needed to either kill 3 clerks or make a special move where she was like the second to last abnormality that I was working with during the meltdown level. And when I was about to switch the level, or when she hit like 16 in her energy produced, I would switch the level by trying to work with other abnormalities. So it ensured that when she goes hysterical, I already have the required number of energy. So, and this abnormality, it escapes when 10 employees or 20 employees die inside the facility, not including the execution bullet. That's why you need to kind of manage your deaths after this point on, because you don't want this abnormality escaping. It's not that hard to contain or suppress, but it surely makes a mess, basically killing a lot of clerks. And I don't like that. It's not like these kinds of happenings are uncommon here, but one day dozens of employees were killed in an accident. The reason is the same as always. Something breaches, they attempt to stop it, then it leads to another breach. Yeah, I guess they're talking about this abnormality as another breach. Or the Queen of Hatred. The one fortunate thing was that the department was sealed off before things could get any worse, so they all died in the same place. Literally, in a mountain of bodies was formed. Obviously, no one wanted to clean up that mess. Normally, it should have been taken care of within the day, but because the accident was just so horrific and everyone was so exhausted, the cleanup was delayed with authorization from the department Sephiroth. Don't ask me which department it was in. I don't remember all the details. When left out in the open, a corpse will begin to rot within a few hours. Most of the bodies that die here are damaged in one way or another, so they decay even faster. You probably don't know yet, but most of the employees here are rather skilled at cleaning up bodies. Tidying up over and over will make anyone an expert in it, whether you want it or not. Let's say someone you were just talking to about dinner plans died horrifically. If your repeated experience to help you, you won't be vomiting or running away at least. Oops, I sidetracked a little. Anyway, in normal circumstances, the mountain would have been removed quickly, but it remained in the department for a quite long time, so it decayed, melted, corroded, and broke down following the laws of nature. That's how its creation began. From the mountain of bodies, the dead gave life to something. Amazed yet? I have still got more to tell you. The dead fused with one another, all smiling, sharing body parts, at least those that were still intact. They became each other's legs and mouths. That doesn't mean their consciousness has also been restored though. It only wants one thing, our flesh drenched in blood. When there is another announcement of someone else's death, the first thing you should do is to check if this thing is quarantined. Once it gets a whiff of the scent, it will pursue us in an instant. Us? Interesting. The smiling faces are unfamiliar yet sorrowful. The more bodies it comes across, the more defined its shapes become, and it is never satisfied. I'm telling you all this because it's almost here. Accidents always happen in this place. Some may spare a bit of their time for a moment of silence, but most will turn away thinking, again? At the very least, one thing that was done right is that the department's been sealed off. I'm the only one left anyways. Did you learn anything from my story? What kind of lesson can we learn from a story as horrific as this one, you ask? It's similar to most of fairy tales. Don't be lazy, is the lesson. When my voice ceases, come here and clean up your colleagues in exactly 3 minutes. Pretty soon I won't be able to keep talking. I'm about to swallow a large bomb. Time running out. Blood is flowing all around here. I'm starting to see the smiling faces now. Something you don't see much around here. Don't be surprised when you hear a loud explosions. Like I said, it's precisely 3 minutes. I'm sure a bomb this size will be unable to suppress it. The last body it finds will be mine. Well, yeah, interesting way to tell a story about the abnormality. And again, it shows us yet another different way the abnormalities are created in this place. It says that the dead bodies piled up and became this abnormality sooner or later. And it looks like this black thing. For some reason, I always imagined Cogito to be a black substance, but I'm not really sure why. Did we see it? Because when we saw Carmen's body, or what is left of it, the brain, it was flowing in a transparent liquid, not black one. I think it was blue. Or maybe it was the lighting that was blue and liquid was transparent. But this thing Yeah, it's how I would imagine Kokita to look like, just blackness. And basically they just transformed themselves through a more natural process, so to say. Yeah, interesting one. Well, next one is an easy abnormality, because it's a useful abnormality, the Heart of Aspiration. A heart without an owner. It still beats even after being removed from its body. When borrowed, its rate of concentration will double, enhancing the borrower's vigor and strength. Excessive aspiration would bring about unwanted frenzy. Employees who did not attack any target before returning the heart, or those who returned the heart before 30 seconds had passed, entered a state of derangement, repeating mindless killings with their enhanced strength. Yeah, basically, it is just useful abnormality. There are abnormalities that give you a fail condition, like for example, that spherical thing that increases your judgment but lowers your prudence, and also makes you die if your sanity goes to 0. There is a crazy notebook, there is a blood that heals you that also might kill you, and everything else. But this one, yeah, you equip it, you get increased HP and an attack speed. Yeah, you die if you return too soon and if you didn't experience combat, but that's so unlikely. So basically this abnormality is only positive, in my opinion, and very nice. So let's move on to yet another useful abnormality, Flash Idol. And this abnormality, when I first saw it, the effect, the last one, it was kinda funny. A meshing of flesh and scrap metal. Is speculated to be a religious artifact found in the flooded district. In the past, some people sought answers through religion. When an employee offers up a prayer, the flesh begins to move, as if receiving the oration. The supplicants will suffer various ordeals in a manner like being put through a trial. Meanwhile, all those around them will recover their tales and woes just as if they were being blessed with redemption. And the prayer shall inevitably end with the eternal despair of its worshipper. Yeah. The subjects who prayed for a duration longer than 90 seconds, they died, and the Cliff counter of all abnormalities dropped to 0. This one is something, to be honest. I don't know. It's not that useful, to be honest. I wouldn't use it as a way to suppress something, like to heal people. Yet it has the most ridiculous fail condition ever. Basically, you just let out all abnormalities. Yeah. Not a very fun abnormality to suddenly misuse. Well, now yet another usable abnormality, which is not in the current facility because it was during the reset that we got, I think, in Binus department, the express train to hell. The booking clerk, who remains dauntingly quiet, sells tickets for a train with no final destination. There are no clocks to alert the arrival time. Instead, there are some blinking lights. The first and the second light illuminates. Your mind clears. The third light illuminates. Your mind clears and your wounds close. The fourth light illuminates. The condition of every employee in every department improves when you hear the train's horn off in the distance. When the time comes, the train will chug down the tracks and sound its mighty horn. There is no doubt that it will plunge through the endless tunnel while boarding the employees who had not taken a step back from the tracks. Yeah, express train to hell. Basically, it doesn't travel to hell, it sends you to hell by running over you. Very interesting train, and somehow I have more trouble keeping my eye onto this seemingly less dangerous abnormality than WhiteNight. Because most of the time when it escapes, or when I miss the fifth light, so to say, it doesn't even hit anyone. So it's not that dangerous in the end, but with WhiteNight, if I miss it, yeah, it's game over, I need to restart. So somehow it's easier to maintain WhiteNight than the train, somehow, for me. Well, it has a lesser effect than WhiteNight anyway, so I don't really like this abnormality. It just needs constant attention, and that one I don't really have to give. Well, let's move on yet to another abnormality, dimensional refraction variant that we discovered in the architecture team. This abnormality I mistook for a cloning abnormality, which would just clone other abnormalities because its text was kinda similar to Mid-Lantern, yet it has one word that is different. This more. In the Mid-Lantern's case, it has less instead of more. That's it, that's the only difference. That's why I really thought that, oh, of course, it's just copies the quality of other abnormality. That will be the hard part about it, because it can maybe clone WhiteNight's mandatory guidelines. I will have to deal with it somehow, and blah 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 blah. But no, it's just another abnormality that is entirely isolated from the Mid-Lantern. Well, in any case, let's read the abnormality. It was a strange phenomenon. It was a phenomenon in and of itself. There was nothing within the unit that could be detected with naked eye. Just like those who had made similar claims some time ago, just because something cannot be seen does not mean it doesn't exist. The containment unit's square length was whatever meters, and this is the cognitive range of the abnormality. The only advice that can be given is to remain cautious and aware of your surroundings. Breathing will become impossible while within the range of abnormality. The area will become a vacuum. What? Okay. Strictly speaking, the abnormality itself is a vacuum phenomenon. Vacuum phenomenon. A record of the death of employee Chomsky. There was no way to confirm if the abnormality had left its containment unit or not. All of a sudden, Chomsky had stopped in the middle of the corridor and just stood there. The hallway was busy at the time, with many people passing by, and of course many of these people expressed their discontent for having part of their hallway blocked. I really want to say halfway, but no. Then all of a sudden Chomsky's body suddenly rose over 3 meters into the air. His arms and legs were awkwardly stretched out, just as if they were being crucified. If his legs had still been on the ground, he might have looked as if it were performing an elegant play or doing ballet. Everyone in the hallway stopped to look at him. Then Chomsky started to scream. He screamed like a madman, but witnessed something horrifying. Nobody knew what to do. Some of our employees attempted to pull Chomsky down by his legs. He didn't budge. After that, Chomsky stopped screaming. A short silence followed, and Chomsky opened his mouth, attempting to mutter something. The 2 employees who were trying to pull Chomsky down started to scream. Blood poured down from their body. His arms and his legs separated, leaving his limbless body floating in the air. All hell broke loose in the hallway, and everybody began running. How to recognize this abnormality is a matter that needs to be discussed further. Currently we are researching ultraviolet technology that may be able to detect the abnormality using the eyes of a shrimp. But the performance so far has been far from satisfactory. For now, a good method is to have employees entering its containment unit bring a glass cup filled with only halfway with water. They will need to place this cup on the floor while working. If the cup begins to slosh, threatening to spill over, the employee must stop working and leave the unit immediately. Very creative solution to find an abnormality that cannot be seen. And I guess since we have a filter, we can see it somehow, but even then it's kinda hard to see it. But yeah, quite interesting abnormality. Has an interesting eco weapon, but I think, well, there is nothing much to say about it. Immune to red damage. That is the only annoying thing, because most of the most damaging weapons, or however you would say it, are actually red damage. In my case, at least. So that's why I didn't like how he just became immune to it. Or is immune. Okay, yet another thing that was removed due to the memory imprints. I think it was in Hockner's division. The Luminous Bracelet. A bracelet that gives off a soft, torque-side light. Many unexpected things have been discovered in the outskirts. I guess they wanted to say that it was one of the unexplainable things in the outskirts. When it's worn, all wounds are healed without a trace of scarring. However, to wear this bracelet, even when one has not a scratch left on their body, is an act of greed. This bracelet shall not forget those who hold greed in their hearts, thus it must only be worn by those in true need. Basically, this bracelet is supposed to give a regeneration, and if you wear it for too long without any wounds, you die. Even in its supposed form, because apparently there is a bug in the game that prevents it from working, and when I equipped it, it didn't work for me. So I guess this bug is actually in the game. Yeah, even if it worked, I don't really believe that this bracelet is useful. You see, the wearer recovers HP. If the wearer has not dropped after a certain HP has not dropped after a certain period of time, they will die from excessive regeneration. Basically, it needs to be a situation where the abnormality that escaped is quite close to this bracelet, so you can pick it up immediately. You have like a minute and a half, I think, of time. Then you need to be constantly fighting it, such that this abnormality doesn't teleport away somehow or just leave, so that you can return to this containment unit within the 1.5 minutes if you are fully healed somehow. Yeah, this one is questionable at best, to be honest, but it increases the fortitude, so maybe there is some use for it, even in its state. Well, let's move to the last ones. The Porccubus, or as I call it, a cucumber, because it looks like a cucumber and it flowers like one. So, nothing to say here really, just a simple abnormality. It is very dangerous to people with temperance level 3 or lower. So this is the only thing I could say about it. Also, when it escapes, it does a very strange event where it closes your vision for a second and then gives you a bullet that you need to shoot somewhere. And I guess if you don't shoot a person with it, it will kill you or something. I don't know. I never really tried to not shoot a bullet. Let's see. Time for the head to burst. To be frank, life in this place isn't so great. The company says they provide healthy hobbies, but not many people engage in this notion. Everyone looks for their own escape, be it violence, gambling, gluttony. I thought I had strength in self-control and discipline compared to others. It did help me live a smoother life. Maybe that's the reason I was assigned to the Porccubus containment unit. Yes, Porccubus, where the lowest of the low employee visit. I've heard a bit about what other employees do in that containment unit. They call it the game of trust. A game of trust, what an elegant thing to name it. Omitted. For whatever reason. According to other employees, it wouldn't be too difficult to become intimate with it. And once I get along with it, I could acquire all of it with ease. All what? They said, when the time comes, Porccubus will lean down so that I easily reach the thorns. It didn't take long until I got to where I could pet it. Omitted. When I first touched the thorns, it felt quite pricky. It felt like a giant needle penetrated my skin. Though there wasn't any bleeding and the pain went away after a moment, then it was the most intense happiness you would ever experience. It would make your knees weak. When I snapped out of it, I found myself drooling. It scared me, so I didn't go back for a while. Then the situation got worse. You'll get withdrawal symptoms, like retching or sweating. Different employees show different symptoms. One employee even pulled out all their teeth because they felt like bugs were crawling all over them. How it felt? I can't find words to describe it. Remember the greatest happiness you ever felt in life? This feeling would be hundreds of times better. You say I'm the last employee in charge of Porccubus? That's understandable, as the brain craves more intense stimulations. At first, all I had to do was to be lightly pricked by one of the thorns. Now, I have to rub my whole body against it to get the same high. I feel like all the blood in my body will rush to my head, eventually bursting it. I've already imagined my head bursting thousands of times anyhow. I have to get going. It's almost time to work. Actually, I'm drenched with sweat right now. Did you notice? Oh, and Porccubus doesn't show any aggression, unlike your speculations. It didn't eat us or bite our head off or anything. All the corpses were smiling happily. That's all. It just makes people smile until death. No one is to blame. You have to go through hell every day. We're just having a small taste of heaven. You know what? I feel sorry for you. You have never felt this feeling and you'll never will. But you have to interview an employee on the edge like me while pretending to be decent. Now it's time for my head to burst. Good day. Wow. That is quite an interesting thing. Nedzach would love this Porccubus guy, but I guess you're not getting it. And for whatever reason, he has a necklace around his neck. The same necklace that he gives to people, with a very high probability that is. I don't like this necklace. It gives you plus 10 sanity in exchange for lower success rate. It's not good, to be honest. But I guess... yeah, it kinda similar to the description that it gives. Basically, you're becoming less and less concerned about your safety and more reckless. Well, nothing really to tell about this abnormality. Now, coming to an interesting abnormality that in my opinion has the wrong letter, O. It's supposed to be F because it's from a Slavic fairy tale, Firebird. And this one, it looks like it doesn't have an associated ego weapon, yet it has a maximum of 3 that it gives after you suppress it. You can do only one suppression a day to get weapon. So let's read it. A long, long time ago, in a faraway forest there lived a magnificent bird. Its feathers were wonderfully incandescent, like the tongues of flames, and it was said that they could swallow the blanket of darkness. Many hunters longed to obtain even one of those feathers, as it would be their pride and honor. There were many tales about the bird. Some said that those who caught the bird would see their families prosper for many generations. A few even claimed that one wasn't a true hunter until they had gotten one of the flame-like feathers. Ones believed that one feather was so strong it could take an owner anywhere they dreamed of. Be what it may be, the bird was a symbol of adventure to people. The faraway forest was soon filled with people looking for the bird, not only hunters but adventurers and travelers too. The once silent forest became a crowded place. People soon became bored with the rumors. They were no longer interested in the hunt. Fewer and fewer people paid any sort of visit to the faraway forest. When the bird finally became nothing but a legend, it experienced a great pain, being blinded. Now all that was left of this legend was a blind bird with bright feathers, alone in an abandoned forest. After a long time had passed, the bird found a new forest. Many people lived in the forest, and the bird just wanted their eagerness to pursue it once again, to be struck like the fiery hues of a blazing feathers. Those who succeeded in the hunt are granted with one of the fairy feathers that countless bird hunters once yearned for. Caution is advised when the hunting season for the Firebird finally arrives. Rash actions such as suppressing it is not recommended. It is also not recommended to simply hunt the bird to prove one's bravery. Please remember all the hunters who had to return empty-handed. I can catch it, just a little bit more and I'll get it. Every employee has thought like this. However, it takes a true courage to accept when to give up. Yeah, and it is a quite interesting description for this bird because it's a flying furnace. Basically, when it flies everywhere, it deals a constant fire damage unless you have a good WoW gear with good red resistance. Your employees will just die. And also when you engage with it, it starts attacking you, becomes aggressive, and it does this little dash across the whole room, and it deals tremendous white damage. So basically not only it deals red damage but also white damage. So yeah, it's kinda hard to kill it, but not only because of that, because it really likes to return to the containment unit right before you finish it. And at that point it becomes invincible and you just have to let it out again. So yeah, this bird is just annoying. The first time I actually got the feather, I guess lucked out because I was able to get it very easily, but then I failed that day and I had to restart, and oh my god, I just spent the whole game just trying to kill it, but it would just, as soon as I get to this low HP of it, it would just return to its containment. It wouldn't even leave the department it was assigned to, the Hawkmas department. It would like fly almost to the end of it and turn back and become invincible. Yeah, it was annoying. Well, anyway, let's move on. Now, what do we have here? I think, yep. Il Pianto della Luna. Or I think it's something about the moon. Yeah, I looked it up. El Pianto della Luna means the crying of a moon, or cry of a moon, something like that, basically. And I don't think it's connected to a song or by the similar name, because that one is played on guitar and quite different from it. But it's a non-escaping entity, but it has a Krivkov counter of 3. And when it escapes, it just starts playing this song. No, not song. Composition. Classical composition. And when it gets to the third movement of this composition, it returns. But otherwise it will go around and smack everyone with its stick, cane, and doing red damage. Yeah. Well, let's see. This abnormality was created with the ideas provided by the tumble baker Eerie, an old woman with a piano at your side. Her eyes are usually closed. She only nods instead of speaking, but on a rare occasion, she will faintly smile. Excerpt from the newspaper article. The world's greatest pianist, Redacted, always gave her best performances when playing that sonata. Her favorite piece. Many praised her excellent skill. Some couldn't even stay seated when she played the third movement because of the overflowing energy and madness that would come of her performance. In her now empty residence, from which she left for the moon, lies the piano she played since childhood, and shrunken heads which allow us to delve into her mind. Except from audio record of employee Redacted, counseling. I mean, we didn't see anything outstanding when we went to secure it. There was just some lady sitting there. It was like she had been waiting for us to come. What happened when one of us approached her? Well, that guy didn't know the first thing about art or music, but before we knew it, he was playing the first movement of that sonata. And the lady smiled. To be honest, I don't think I'll ever get to hear a piano performance as beautiful as what I heard then ever again. We never got to see that guy again. That's why you need my testimony, right? Because I played the third movement. Wait. Huh. It voluntarily returned to its containment after the end of the third movement. Maybe I need to play it 3 times? That's what? Because I never really tried to suppress it, and I never really bothered to look if it disappears on its own or not, because usually it escapes when just all hell breaks loose. Like, all the other abnormalities escape and they roam around, and abnormalities do fight each other. Maybe she never returned by itself, and I had to play the piano to return her? I don't know how or why it makes you play. Your hands just move and you feel euphoric while playing it. Everything around you fades away. It's just you and the piano. After I finished playing exhausted, I realized what my feet had been pressing down on burned pedals, but severed heads. The moon represents the human psyche. They often say that the moon is beautiful, but when enough time has passed, when you look at it and see what kind of face it truly wears, you'll realize you were madly in love with something so broken and shattered. In the end, we all become like the moon, all because we cannot bear ourselves. Well, poetic way to say that you don't like your life, I guess. Well, anyway, let's move to an abnormality that was supposed to change its rating. Yeah, the Army in Black, or Army in Pink, it has 2 names actually. And I was told that it's supposed to say that it's Zion at first, but then it's supposed to change when you reach the final or level 3 observation level to a proper Aleph rating, yet it's still Zion, which is kinda interesting. But it's very interesting abnormality because it's very easy to work with. It says common here, but I bet it's high actually, not common. Kinda good gear. Basic. This is a sniper rifle that needs a long time to set up first, but then you shoot very fast. And a very good gear. And the gift also amplifies the damage of the rifle, so very cool. Yep, you see? Increase the damage of the abnormalities weapons by 15%, while the corresponding abnormalities armor is equipped. So, let's read. This abnormality was created with the ideas provided by the tumbleback baker Moon Jong-ho. This abnormality takes the form of a humanoid creature in pink equipment. its intellectual capacity is high enough that it can verbally converse with human beings. At the very least, it seems friendly during observations and work. It has identified itself as a special force from Redacted and uses pronouns we when referring to itself. It has continuously shown positive intentions to help humanity. Or audio record from the first contact with the abnormality. The beginning is omitted. Serena. Well, I feel threatened because you're armed. That bright pink outfit's disturbing as well. It doesn't belong in a place like this. What's your opinion on the nature of humans, Miss Serena? Serena, I think it depends on the person's experience. Why do you ask? It's Army in pink. It's highly debatable topic, but this is what we think we should do. If a person is good from the start, we protect their good heart. If a person is bad from the start, we will make a good heart out of them and protect that heart. Serena, how are you going to do that? Army in pink. We can see the color of human's heart. The color of the human heart is pink, and by wearing the same color, we can blend in with the people's minds. We'll gladly get dirty for the sake of the good heart. Serena, wait, you'll get dirty instead of the people? Is that actually a thing that's possible? Army in pink. Indeed it is. Serena, I'm sorry, but I just can't trust you. Or what you say, it's rather suspicious that you just say see the color of someone's heart. Army in pink. If anything happens, just call us, ma'am. End of the recording. Following what was stated in the recording, the abnormality's will to help others is solid. We have yet to grasp detailed information around this abnormality. Perhaps actually asking it for help could aid in learning more. However, just like any other abnormality, we shouldn't blindly trust it. I plan to have a suppression team ready while I pretend to ask it for help. So, lots happened up to now. To summarize the whole thing, this abnormality is the best thing we ever had here. A few months ago, I took a chance asking the abnormality for help, and ever since I've been using it, I've gotten help from it about redacted times in a row. My efficiency at work has gotten so much better too. At this point, just looking at the something pink makes me feel better. Those creatures bolster in a way even greatest leaders can't match. These abnormalities will greatly improve our employees' quality of life. Except from audio record. Serena, you can do it again today, right? Army in pink. Yes, the human heart is pink, and we wear the same color. We'll drive away bad thoughts. Serena, you hear that? Is that still in the best condition? We can put this abnormality to good use again in our next suppression. They are so much better than human soldiers. Perhaps we should positively consider putting them as our special suppression team. On a side note, they seem to have gotten a bit darker in color, but I don't think it's anything to lose sleep over. The army in pink, the human heart, we must clean. Even the smallest speck of evil must be cleaned. Serena, it seems a bit less energetic than usual, so it will be fine, I think. End of the recording. Urgent report of the incident related to the army in pink. We filed this urgent report due to the drastic change in army in pink. We are still trying to grasp exactly what happened. A total of redactor employees have passed away. The following audio is a recording of the assumed first casualty, employee Serena. Audio recording, Serena. An abnormality has broken out again in the redacted section. I would like to ask you if you could help out again. Army in pink. Yes, we army in black. Blend into the human heart and drive away good thoughts. Serena, hold on. What? That's not your line. Army black. The human heart is black. We must regularly clean. Serena, what are you talking about? You're creeping me out, man. Army in black. We will protect you with our black love. Serena, stop! I'll call suppression team. If you move even an inch, I swear. Army in Black, we salute you, ma'am. The recording abruptly ends after the sound of a huge explosion. Yeah, I guess this is yet another abnormality that helps people by kinda sucking in the negative emotions, but unlike the Sin and Thousands good deeds, it does so by corrupting itself, and that's why when it works for you for a number of times, it becomes an army in black and tries to wreak havoc by releasing abnormalities and dealing black damage when you try to attack it. Yeah, very interesting abnormality, but it's good for training insight work, and it's even better for attachment work, but attachment work is covered, so the only way to get the attachment work is by getting the Malkuth core suppression event and yeah, get redirected to attachment. Well, let's move on to the last two abnormalities. Parasite Tree, one of the few abnormalities that I actually had to actively manage. Most of the abnormalities I just need to work properly with them, but this one, yeah, it's very jealous because when 5 works with other abnormalities, which include usable abnormalities or like, for example, that Heart of Aspiration or the, I don't know, the train, the cliff of counter lowered, and it has only 1. Maximum cliff of counter is 1. Again, it says nothing but it's 1. And when it drops, it tries to infect an employee. It has a similar effect like a mushroom, the little prints. You can snap them out by just clicking on them with your mouse. And when they're infected, it will light up a bat on its tree. You will see it physically. And when there are 5 of these bats, it will convert every single infected employee, which includes orcs, by the way. And yeah, basically killing them and transforming them into the abnormalities that we will need to suppress. Kinda, well, when I didn't know about just clicking on it, I had to constantly work with an employee who was infected, like do 4 works with the abnormalities and then work with it. Yeah, I got some interesting results. Has a very interesting ego gift. It covers a helmet, which, yeah, sometimes there are a lot of gifts that cover the helmet slot, and gives a negligible stat boost, to be honest. But they look like elves with these ears. This abnormality was created with the idea provided by Tumbleback Baker, ILOL 530, whatever is written here. An abnormality taking the form of a tree with plentiful leaves. The leaves are lush with a rich green color, creating a comforting ambience. A refreshing flowery scent is carried by a gentle breeze. Employees who made contact with the abnormality stated that it provided them with a significant psychological comfort. Yep, and indeed that is true, because when you finish working with the abnormality, it restores your sanity point and increases the work speed. Such statements were deemed truthful as the employees displayed a visible increase in work efficiency, along with a notable decrease in mental corruption. An excerpt from employee's diary. At first I thought it was just my imagination from being sleep deprived, but as my body and mind got more and more exhausted, the voice calling me got clear and clear. I help you with your problem. Yeah, that's right. You can help me. What was I worrying about? I can smell a flowery scent. They imported a tree. That tree, standing in the middle of the containment unit, was a beautiful sight to behold. I could feel the scent of flowers flint across my face even though there was no breeze or wind. smelling that scent for even just a moment makes my attachment for the tree blindly grow. I was very intuitive since my childhood, so I could sense that this artificial attachment was hazardous. Ever since then, I tried everything I could to avoid contact with that tree, making all kinds of excuses whenever I was assigned to work with it. Well, if you put it like that way, just this once, okay? Geez, did that tree do something to you? My colleagues' banter gets stuck in my ear. Did it do something? Yes, it did, and it scares me. A few days later, the same colleague has now become a staunch worker, wearing a constant smile on his face. I knew he's always been an optimistic person, but I couldn't help but feel uneasy because his face seemed strangely comfortable. Really? Do I seem content lately? Yeah, well, that's because the tree helped me a lot. He answered lightheartedly. From my years of experience, I can say for certain that few people can smile so sincerely while working for this company. That means when someone keeps smiling at work, it's a sign that something went wrong. My suspicion immediately led me to report this behavior to my superior. The answer came sooner than I thought. It said that I'm to observe the abnormality myself and file an observation report because there have been several abnormal behaviors related to this tree, which were identified in several other employees, not just the guy I reported. The order was forced to me to finally confront this tree that I had been avoiding as best I could. I knew I couldn't pass it over to someone else at this time. It was no longer a barren, naked tree that I saw the day it was imported. Instead, I saw a containment unit covered in grass that seemed to be sprawling around the tree, which was peculiar since there was no way grass could grow in a containment unit. Yeah, because it's filled with metal. This facility is completely inorganic. Hello, have you come here to receive my blessing too? The moment I felt that something was wrong, a voice echoed in my head. It was difficult to decrypt the contents of the final diary from this point onward, and the writing became heavily distorted. I don't know how I wrote the observation report. All that's certain is I just wrote what I felt about the tree. This beautiful plant is bringing happiness to every employee who visits its containment unit. It will soon greatly contribute to the humanity's quest for prosperity and advancement. But how could an abnormality be such a good influence on humanity? I just want to help you. A voice without a single speck of malicious intent echoed again in my head. Yes, you're right. You're just helping me. And if you're okay with it, I could bring all your friends who are having a hard time here. I believe I can help them. Yes, this tree will easily bring peace to their mind. Speaking of which, that newbie seemed to be pretty depressed lately. Hey, I know a place that will make you feel better. Come along if you want to. She followed me without any suspicion. It wasn't hard to bring her to the tree's containment unit. I offered her to the tree. She could get better. She will get better. You have brought your friend. You are a good child. Let me gift you with something. I could feel something sprouting from my body. I couldn't move my limb. No, this isn't a bad thing. I'm being reborn with the tree. The tree has entered me, transfixed me. We proliferate and become whole. I can completely feel it now. So many abnormalities that positively affect employees, yet they kill them. I wonder, do these abnormalities actually think that they help people? Or are they just sly monsters and deceive people? Maybe some of them actually think that they are helping them, yet, yeah, I don't really think so. Well, and the last abnormality that we are going to talk about today is abnormality that we got in the BhiteNight department, which is called Melting Love or a Slime Girl. which has an interesting mandatory guideline. Basically, if you perform a bad result or normal, the cliff of counter lowers. If you perform a work that is not a repression work, you will get a lump of heart, basically a chunk of your. And only the first employee that does that. All other employees don't receive this lump, and that lump will periodically heal the employee, I think the only sanity of it, and raise their work success rate. However, whenever it does so, whenever it heals that employee, it also spreads to other employees, both clerks and agents. And when they're infected, well, soon they will transform into the abnormality-2, which is a slime monster. Yeah, basically this abnormality just infects you, and you have to be careful. And the only thing to make it stop is either quarantine the whole department. If it can spread, it cannot infect anyone and create monsters, or just perform repression work, make it escape, and suppress it, because during suppression it doesn't infect anyone. I think it can infect corpses, but it cannot infect living. So that's how you do it with this abnormality. It's kinda easy to suppress, by the way, but it does deal damage over time, a black damage over time, which is the same for its weapon, by the way. So let's read it. This abnormality was created with ideas provided by the Tumblebug Baker Mule, a melting slime with a resemblance to humans when inspected closely. Its containment unit is covered in mucus and secretions. And yeah, when it's in its I guess sane form, or not aggressive form, it looks like a slime girl, but when it escapes, it looks like a monster. It changes it looks like, depending on the situation. Today I would like to talk about the recent incident everyone has heard of. That's right, that dreadful incident when an army of slimes took over our facility for redacted minutes. There were several containers left in the redacted lab which were not processed properly during the experiment related to redacted. If you know about the redacted experiment, you would already know that the concerns of those containers are merely useless leftovers that only prove the experiment has failed. Our researchers felt there was no need to dispose of them. It was obvious that one newbie to the research team had no idea what was inside those containers. Employee Mary found the containers of pink slime and felt that they could pose a threat. It is assumed that she thoroughly concealed and kept them in redacted status. If my assumption is correct, the melted object in those containers was probably the redacted of redacted. Heart, maybe? I became sure of this when I read the passage that describes its appearance as that of an adolescent human. I don't know if this was fortunate for us or not, but its memories, including those of the experiments, were completely gone. It could barely speak of a word or two. It was also mentally unstable. It became extremely nervous whenever Mary was not present. Mary had a brother, whom she lost during her childhood. It all started when she felt an attachment to the childlike pink slime that followed her around. Mary showed an unprecedented level of decrease in her mental corruption. Indeed, it was extremely unusual. Of course, it was certain that the abnormality somehow affected her in a positive way. But that was the end of the benefits. Her colleagues started noticing her odd behavior. They tried to ask her about it. It was the right thing to do. They were educated about the potential implication of a steep decrease in mental corruption levels, and understood that a person disappearing every single break time is a dangerous sign. However, Mary didn't say a word to them and ended up detained in the counseling room until opened up. Detained. in the counseling room until she opened up. Meanwhile, the slimy creature that had forgotten everything instinctively remembered one thing. It had to get out of the facility no matter what. The abnormality once again felt extremely nervous when Mary didn't show up on time. It thought that she was in danger. It was then that it decided to escape with her. A rare bond had formed between the two. They cared about each other from the bottom of their hearts. Confined within the counseling room, Mary eventually gave up her right to remain silent and began to reveal what she had done, how she kept the contents inside the container, and how she was able to form a bond with it. However, she couldn't finish her words. This was because she melted in the blink of an eye. Moments after signs of anomaly showed up on her skin. Yes, she quite literally melted in her entirety. And that wasn't the end of it. The slime that once was a Mary a few seconds ago began to move. It wasn't a difficult task for a fluid creature to slide under the door of the counseling room. Did it have a speck of human rationality? No. Just like a newborn duckling blindly follows its mother, it simply moved towards the abnormality. And it wasn't just Mary that turned into slime. Every single employee who had made contact with her in some way or began to melt too. Those who were questioning her, who had shared a meal with her, who had worked together. Soon this army of slime began to attack other employees. All for the mother slime, the abnormality they loved. Yes, out of love and love alone, they killed. And my dear employees, I do hope you all didn't forget to put on the gas mask we distributed to you before we entered. Did you? I do hope that no one took it off out of boredom or stiffness. I must inform you all that some of you are already infected by the slime I told you about. We did not give gas masks to some of you. What? And we didn't say that it was because we were out of stock. And we did say that it was because we were out of stock. So to be truthful, it was just so we could distinguish between those who are infected and those who are not. You may feel fine now, but before an hour passes, your flesh and bones will start to melt, and your mind will be disintegrated into a pitch-black nothingness. Then, you'll begin to try and wreak havoc on the facility. You'll probably, as your first action in your new form, jump at the employees sitting right next to you, all for the mess of slime you adore. Yes, I know, it's unbelievable. You feel so alive and clear now. Just how on earth could you melt down into slime? And yet, you will. It's not your fault too, of course. Someone among you made a contact with the slime abnormality, and you were just the unlucky sap who happened to be around that person. It's meaningless now to determine patient zero. I doubt they had any idea how catastrophic the result of their actions would be. What? At first I thought that I read the same line twice, but no, it's two different lines. Okay. Mistakes happen. They did it out of pure affection after all. Finally, those unaffected who are wearing masks, please ensure you pay extra attention to those hygienes and immediately report when you see an employee acting out of an ordinary. You'll simply be infected as well if you attempt to help them. Now, in your desk there is a 9mm pistol, all perfectly loaded and locked. What you must do now should be clear. We will not open the doors until the situation is taken care of. If you think this is too cruel, allow me to remind you that this abnormality has a red damage immunity, and the pistol do red damage. So, good luck. I hope to see you again once everything has been handled. Yeah. Basically, an interesting abnormality that was created by the idea is from the Tumbleback Baker, basically a person that related to the game in early stages of development, and they really wanted to create a slime girl. Well, you've got your slime girl, the one that just eats you. But I hope you enjoyed this little reading. Didn't really get that much information other than, well, it really seems like the abnormalities that are stored in this place are not entirely created by the Carmen's Cogito, because some of them seem to be, I don't know, created somewhere else. Maybe they were nature created, maybe they were created by some circumstances, some events in the company, or maybe they were created by some other party. At least it seems like so, because not all of them have a description that would suggest that there was some experiment. For example, it really seems like in the case of the shark, where is it? Here, the dreaming current, it really seems like there was an experiment to turn this kid into the abnormal. But for example, in the case of a tree, they literally said that they just imported these trees from somewhere, and even if this line is somehow misleading, because maybe they imported it from their lab, the different abnormality, which is a teddy bear, I think, it basically says that somewhere here, I think, that it was from some other owner, or maybe I'm remembering a different abnormality. But in any case, no, it wasn't the teddy bear. This abnormality, he just came to this to this facility by itself somehow, which is very strange. Well, in any case, we are working with partial information, so I guess the reality is that we need to make up our own reality, or maybe the answers lie in other games by the same dev team. So, I hope you enjoyed this, and good luck!